Hi, my name's Paul, and here's my testimony on how Amway tried to scam me. I'm going to tell you this story in extreme detail with 100% accuracy because it was such a comical experience that it stands out as maybe one of the most vivid things in my memory. And I'm not going to sugarcoat anything I say about Amway here like all these other creators are doing, because I don't care if this video gets taken down or not. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is that I have a platform, even if it's a small platform, to tell the truth. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here today. My only goal in making this video is to put the truth out so people know what's going on, and so I can hear other people's testimonies that are similar to this one. Now let's dive in. So I was a teenager working at Taco Bell. I was working the cash register, pretty much did everything there. And this car comes through the drive-thru. This car pulls up to the window, and this guy, I'm going to use his real name if it is his real name, Brandon. He leans out the window, pushes his arms on either side of the window, and he looks at me just like this. And he looks both ways seedily, and he goes, "Psst, hey kid, you want to make some money?" Okay, something pretty much exactly just like that is what he said. And of course, I'm a teenager, so I'm like, heck yeah, man. It just stopped raining, so I took my video out here. Anyway, we exchanged contact information, me and Brandon, and he starts messaging me, getting me interested in Amway, talking about his buddy Ivan, his mentor that I'm supposed to meet, okay? A mentor of his that helped him get started, right? So, I'm a teenager, I'm excited to make some money and get involved in this new business, start my own business, right, with Amway. So after we're texting for a while, and, I'm a little suspicious of the whole thing, even though I'm a teenager, but I'm interested, right? I want to see where it goes. So Brandon has me to Panera Bread to meet Ivan, okay? Now, I asked my mom if she wanted to come along with me to kind of see what was going on with this thing, right? So my mom sits a table over as I'm waiting for these gentlemen to show up for the meeting. And, she was undercover, right? Undercover mom. And they come and they start telling me, hey, look at this, and they're drawing everything out on a piece of paper, showing me how much money I can make and this and that, and this is why, this is how. And I was confused, right? And, they're kind of acting like, hey, I just don't get it, right? Just not smart enough to understand the writing, right? And so I was like, okay, I guess it makes sense. They seem to know what they're talking about. They're dressed nicely, at least Ivan is. And we leave, me and my mom, and I ask her, hey, what did you think of that? And she said, well, I think it sounds legitimate, because when you're broke, you want to believe that there's a way out. And that's what these people prey on. So they invite me to their event at the Cultural Center, okay, in Grand Rapids. And I show up, it's a very nice event, okay? And this is where it kind of gets pretty weird here. So I walk and take the bus from the small apartment that I shared with my brother in town. And I eventually get there, and it's a very nice event, very fancy, I think they might have even had someone like parking the cars and everything, And I go in there, and I come up and shake these two younger guys' hands. They're both wearing a suit. They got their hair slicked back with hair gel, a lot of hair gel. And they're smaller than me. I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 6'3", 6'4". And these guys, just average height, wearing a suit. And I just remember when, they shake my hand, and they look at each other and they just smirk like, this fucking idiot. We got another sucker, right? That's the look they exchanged. as if, you know, I'm just some dummy, okay, because I wasn't very rich or successful, and I was just dressed like a normal human being. I don't know if they were kids of the owners or what the deal was there. But anyway, they had tables in the front set up near this stage, and the tables were for new visitors only, new visitors, okay? So I sit at these tables, which are for the new visitors, and people dressed very nicely proceed to come out on stage and talk about how Amway changed their life, okay? And this is where it becomes kind of a comedy. You know, at one point, this guy goes, I was blind. You know, he was getting on his knees. He was like, I was blind. And he's like getting on his knees on stage, and he's like, but now I see because of Amway. And it was the most ridiculous performance I have ever seen in my life. Okay, and I'm 30 years old. I've seen a lot of shit. And I look around at the other tables of the new visitors, and there's these certain intervals where you're supposed to clap, right? When the people finish their speech, and you know, you're supposed to clap, right? And I noticed that all the other new visitors, or almost all of them, including the ones sitting at my table, are texting on their phones the whole time, completely disinterested in what's happening on the stage. But at every appropriate interval, they set their phone down, okay, and they clap their hands, all of them together in unison, right? And I start to realize that I'm at a rehearsed play where the audience is in on the gig, okay? They probably regularly come here and do this, and they're taught exactly how to clap appropriately, and they're just extremely used to sitting through this routine. That's what it was, a routine, okay? Now, I don't know how many other new people like me they were trying to sucker with this routine, but I know that most of the people that I was seeing, and at least the people at my table, as I start asking them questions about them being new, start to say that they've been coming there for years. Okay, and I don't think they were supposed to tell me this at all. Okay, because we're sitting at a clearly new people only table that are just now finding out about Amway. Okay, at least that's how it was advertised to me by Ivan and Brandon. Now, because of this ridiculous performance and information that I had already heard about Amway, I start to realize that these people think I'm an idiot, and they're trying to take my money, okay? They're trying to get me to buy their products for inflated prices and compete with Walmart and Meijer and try to sell toilet paper for $5 more, whatever. And, you know, off-brand energy drinks and just all this shit for prices that people are just not going to pay for me to make a profit, or for anyone, for that matter, involved to make a profit, okay? And I go up to Ivan, I said, hey, I know what's going on here, man, after the event. And I said, this is some kind of multi-level marketing thing, right? A pyramid scheme of sorts. And he holds up his finger and he goes, no, 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 no. And he's wearing a suit, and his wife, and there's people standing around. And he says, it's not, because we have a product. And I keep looking at him. I said, I think you're trying to pull one over on me. Okay. And this tall guy, in shape, you know, probably 40 years old, he turns around, he runs away from me, and I'll never forget this, his suit flailing as he runs the other way, probably to go get security or something. And at this point, I am just really upset because of the total ridiculous bullshit show that they put on to convince me that Amway is the way, the truth, and the life. And so I walk out, I leave, I'm really upset. And just because all my time got wasted. And I remember I even walked all the way home. I didn't have a car at the time, okay? And, you know, my hopes had been really high up. I was almost ready to quit my job over this, you know, because of the big promises that I was made. That, you know, I could make all this money, okay? Now I've since heard and seen them doing similar things to other people. And people have come forward and told me their stories, or stories of things that happened to their family members. Now, when I was younger, my dad worked for Amway as a computer programmer, and once they were done with him, they just fired him out of nowhere, okay, for nothing, and he was left without a job. And a friend of mine, you know, his dad, very close friend of mine, his dad got involved with Amway trying to sell their products that don't sell, and he got stuck with a bunch of stuff that wouldn't sell, so he got ripped off by them too. And younger friends of mine have also had experiences where Amway approached them and, you know, had them and pressured them in other groups of people in very weird situations. As for my story, this all happened 10 years ago. I haven't made this information public since then, but because of everything I've heard and seen, and because it seems like literally no one is standing up for the people that Amway's preying on, I'm standing up here today for everybody that's been through this. And I'm encouraging you to do the same. I find it incredibly hard to believe that nobody's doing anything about this. I am going to stand up to the Amway Corporation with the full force of my being, because it's time for this madness to stop. The only way we can do it is if we stand together and stand up for what's right. People who have money are scared of these people, but I'm not. Come after me, Amway, for telling the truth, and see what happens. You guys don't scare me with your billions of dollars. And by the way, to everyone watching this, I have no suicidal thoughts, and I am not planning on disappearing anytime soon. If you have a similar story like this, or you know someone, maybe a family member or a friend, who's been taken advantage of by Amway, tell your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it, and I'm sure everybody else here would too. Until next time, peace and be safe.